The Indian rupee continued to depreciate against the US dollar. Why is this happening and what should you do as an investor? You can't keep Adani off the news. The inside scoop on the latest scandal. All of these on the week that was, where we break down all the big events from the week and tell you how it impacts your money. Let's go. So before we get to the stories, here's a quick market update. After weeks of red, finally some green shoots are emerging. The Nifty 50 index aimlessly drifted this week with no clear signs to decisively move in either direction. However, the Friday's boost propelled the index to a weekly gain of 1.86%. Foreign investors who have been responsible for this downfall continue to pull money out of India. However, the pace at which they're doing it has considerably fallen, which is a good sign. With us approaching the end of the earnings season, we've already spoken about how disappointing the earnings season has been. And with global macro factors already priced in, the markets are in a wait and watch mode. It is waiting for fresh triggers to chart out the next course of action. I must admit, the markets have been quite resilient in spite of all the headwinds that we've spoken about in the previous episode and correcting only 10% from the highs. Could this be the bottom? We will know in the next 1 or 2 weeks. The election results in Maharashtra and Jharkhand could provide some impetus to the market in the near term. However, you as an investor should continue to do your SIPs and stick to your financial plans. Our first story is all about the Indian rupee and its slide against the US dollar. Recently, rupee hit a fresh time low of 84.50 against the US dollar. Rupee has lost 0.5% against the US dollar just this month and has lost over 3.5% this year. Before we talk about the reasons behind this, let me introduce you to an index called US dollar index. US dollar index is a measure of the strength of the US dollars relative to a basket of 6 currencies: Euro, British pound, Swedish krona, Swiss francs, Japanese yen and the Canadian dollar. This measures the strength of the US dollars in the global market. The US dollar index year to date has increased by 4.9% and since the election of Donald Trump has increased by 2.72%. So the US dollar is appreciating against all global currencies. Here are 4 reasons why the US dollar is strengthening. First, a strong US economy. Based on the recent data, the US economy is growing at 2.8%, which is significantly higher than the average GDP growth of 1.8 to 2%. Such a fast growing economy will obviously attract more foreign investments, which boosts the dollar value. 2. The geopolitical scenario. With escalation rising between Ukraine and Russia, more investors are using dollar as a safe asset and reserve. 3. The Federal Reserve policy. With growth being strong and inflation staying high, Fed has indicated that it will slow down the pace at which they'll cut interest rate, which again supports a strong US dollar. 4. Trade policies. Donald Trump's proposed tariffs and trade policies will reduce the trade deficit of America and boost the value of dollar. Remember, the markets are always forward-looking and price in what is expected in the near future into today's prices. For these reasons, all global currencies are under pressure against the US dollars. However, the INR has done significantly better than its Asian peers. The Asian currencies have depreciated anywhere between 0.9 to 2.5% just this month. Remember, INR has corrected or depreciated only by 0.5%. This is largely due to the intervention of Reserve Bank of India using its 700 billion forex reserve. RBI has been selling dollars in the markets, thereby reducing the slide in the INR and bringing more stability in our currency. As a result of which, the current reserve stands at only $680 billion. So you might ask, why can't RBI sell more dollars and ensure that there is no depreciation in INR? One has to remember, if Indian rupee is more expensive compared to the Asian peers, our export becomes more expensive, impacting our trade. RBI has to ensure that it balances both imports and exports. For investors, it is wise to diversify into US dollar denominated assets such as US funds and gold, which tend to benefit from a weaker rupee. Most analysts predict that the pressure on the INR will continue and will further slide. Our second story is about Adani. Adani is back in the news, but this time the charges levied against him is a bit serious and will have short-term repercussions. The US Securities and Exchange Commission, that is the SEBI equivalent in the US, has charged Gautam Adani and 6 others of Adani Green and Azure Power for their alleged role in a bribery scheme connected to multi-billion-dollar solar projects awarded by Indian governments, primarily state governments. The impact has been massive. The stock price took a tumbling. The Adani Group stocks corrected anywhere between 6 to 25% in a single day. Adani Green had to withdraw their $600 million denominated bond issuance, which would impact their fundraise. Remember, companies can borrow money from foreign investors at a lower interest rate than borrowing it domestically. Kenya has already withdrew 2 projects awarded to the Adani Group. More such withdrawal could follow. The concerned stakeholders have already denied these allegations and are evaluating the legal course of action. This would be a long-drawn battle. However, the good thing is SEC is a little more efficient than Indian regulators. However, I believe this is just a short-term pain. Such business transactions are very common not just in India but in most developing countries, especially when it comes to infra-related projects. In fact, analysts across the globe do factor in such transactions when they do their valuations. Government and private entity bonhomie is not uncommon. Take for instance what's happening in the US. Elon Musk raised a lot of funds for Trump and now has a significant stake in the new government. This would translate into policies that would benefit Musk and his group companies. Tesla has already seen a gain of 17% since election day. So, this is just a short-term pain for Gautam Adani and the Adani group of stocks. In the long run, this should not have a significant impact. With that, we come to the end of this show. If there are certain topics that you would like to cover, do write to us or comment below. Standard disclaimers. The views are personal and these are not investment advice. Myself or Fabits customers might have investments in the assets discussed here. Remember, investments in markets are subject to market risk. Please read all related documents before investing.